Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this special called meeting of the Durham Public Schools Board of Education. I would, as is our custom, like to begin with a moment of silence. Thank you. And now I'd like to call on Dr. Lum.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I start, I want to begin by thanking the people who are sitting out in the audience, and especially the principals who came from their schools to be with us this afternoon. This is an extraordinarily important day for Durham Public Schools. On Sunday afternoon, when the rains started, the team from all over the country, from AdvanceED, which is the national accreditation group for secondary schools and colleges throughout the country, and actually, I think it's international now also, so that we were appreciative of their arrival. And the weather didn't get better after that. In fact, we had 2 solid days of rain, and I thought we were going to have an ark out there to bring people from school to school, but we made it. And I think that the team was extraordinarily professional, extraordinarily perceptive. They were a delight to work with. And that I believe that we have a fair assessment of our school system. And at this point, I'd like to introduce to you the chair of the team. And I know that during his presentation, he will introduce the members of his team and where they're from. I think that'll be interesting for the people here. And so I have Mr. Tom Jones from Kentucky.
Very much. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the community this afternoon, the board and the professional staff about your school system. But I do think that we need to begin by introducing our team. And I need to say to you that this is the varsity team. This is the A team. AdvanceED has sent a truly outstanding team of professional people to Durham. And I'm very, very proud of all of them. And I'd like for them to introduce themselves. Their names are on the board. And we'll just go in alphabetical order, starting with this young man right here. Dr. Barnes, you want to stand up and introduce yourself? Tracy? Okay.
Mr. Jones, there's definitely a Southern flavor to this team, and we appreciate it.
Well, now, this Barnes guy here is from Boston. So,
you did let her in, didn't you?
Right. So we will forgive him for that. No, it's really been a great team, a wonderful team to work for, and I've thanked them privately, and I want to thank them again publicly for being such a terrific group to work with. So we want to talk with you about the work that we've been doing for the last 3 days, and actually prior to this 3 days here on site. So what this will be is a very high-level overview of that work. And I have to also say that it's kind of preliminary because AdvanceED likes to make sure that we have supporting evidence and that our data and so forth backs up our conclusions. But the point of accreditation is to encourage and help to ensure that improvement is occurring in our accredited institutions. It's to build capacity of our institutions to increase and sustain student learning. That's our focus. And our greatest desire is that we stimulate and improve your effectiveness in improving student learning and organizational conditions. So That's what we've been all about here, is trying to help Durham to become even stronger school system. It's important that you know that we did meet virtually prior to coming to Durham. Many of us emailed and talked back and forth a great deal over about a period of a month or 60 days prior to arriving. The team was given a lot of data and information about Durham that they were asked to examine before coming to Durham. During the on-site review here, we've talked to nearly 400 stakeholders, and we've observed, and these were formal 20-minute observations in about 100 classrooms. We've been in 10 schools, and we have continued to examine data and artifacts and documents, and we have discussed and deliberated and tried to analyze all of this and put it together during the 3 days that we've been here. And the team feels compelled to declare publicly our appreciation and respect for Durham in their very objective and honest approach that they took to the internal review process, the self-assessment, the accompanying diagnostics. We very much appreciate the extent to which you've said this is truly who we are and this is where we think we currently stand. I need to also say to you that AdvanceED is a different organization from what it was when we reaccredited Durham 5 years ago. Among the changes that have been made in the organization is a revision of the standards, which represent a right significant raising of the bar in terms of instructional practice and the extent to which they're aligned to research and best practices. Also, the standards and indicators all focus on one common theme, and that is that all students will have equitable and challenging learning experiences leading to next level success. That's a mouthful. But as we go through this process, what we're looking for is where in this school system are we ensuring that all children have these equitable and challenging learning experiences leading to next level success. Also, within the accreditation process, there is a far greater reliance on performance data, in particular student performance data, but also stakeholder surveys and the classroom observations. So the bar has been raised for all the accredited schools across the U.S. and internationally. And I want to get this out of the way. Durham Public Schools has been and will continue to be an accredited school with AdvanceED, and we very much appreciate it. We very much appreciate the work that you're doing here, and we very much appreciate your willingness to engage with AdvanceED and with this team of professionals from outside your school system in a 3-day conversation about how do we get better. Some of you know that we had a journalist on the team who was covering AdvanceED. Her focus was on the efficacy of our accreditation process. And last night at about 11 o'clock, she said to me, "Why would any school system do this?" And I said, because I think that that's how serious they are about wanting to be better and wanting to be recognized as being an accredited organization. But it's a lot to put yourselves through, and we commend you for the good work that you're doing. And what we want to do is to talk now about moving forward from here when we have perhaps a new superintendent in place. What can occur in Durham for it to become an even stronger organization. So let's start by talking about the strengths that we have confirmed exist in the organization. One of those is, and one of the things that I think that it's a great point of pride, is the degree to which you embrace and celebrate your diversity. That's everywhere in every school. It's here in your system office. And we very much appreciate that and the moral principle that it stands upon of fairness and equity. Your improvement in graduation rates, and in particular, the fact that you have 3 high schools that have 100% graduation rate is certainly a strength. There is an array of school choices that you are offering the community through the magnet programs, and it's kind of stunning how many choices kids have, families have within the system. I think it's important that we point out that student performance on the AP tests are actually above other systems in North Carolina, and that the percentage of schools exceeding growth expectations is comparable across the state. So learning is occurring in Durham. We want to encourage that learning occur at a faster rate and that we move in the direction of all students being the beneficiaries of challenging and equitable learning. But it is occurring, so there's capacity here. We know that. There are opportunities in the system to build leadership capacity that you are intentionally trying to promote. The out-of-the-box PD, which was an opportunity for teacher leadership, and many others. And then there's strong community support. The recently passed bond referendum is certainly an evidence of that. We also acknowledge that this is a school system that has some very real challenges. And the first that really became apparent to us is the teacher turnover situation. And the attendant challenges that come with having a lot of new teachers in a single school over a period of 1, 2, or 3 years. The capacity to address the needs of children who are coming here from outside the U.S. Because of the complexity of this organization and the language differences and so forth, communications is a huge challenge. Being able to communicate to your parents, to stakeholders, to students, to find that common language is an ongoing challenge. And then we feel that overcoming some misconceptions about the school system is also a great challenge that you face. So we want to talk about opportunities for improvement, improvement priorities, and something that's called the Index of Educational Quality. We just wanted to give you a rundown of the categories of stakeholders we talked to. We actually talked to almost 200 students in the schools yesterday. These were informal sidebar conversations in which our folks were trying to get context and understand what's happening. That was very beneficial to us. So there are 3 domains that are a part of this process. One is the teaching and learning impact, which is Standard 3 and Standard 5. The team examined performance data. We looked at classroom observation data, survey data. We also looked at the quality and the efficacy of the curriculum. The second domain is the leadership capacity domain, which is system and school leadership as well as governance. And there's data that surrounds those, including the survey data and performance results, of course. And then resource utilization is Standard 4, which is simply the extent to which resources are being allocated most effectively to help ensure that all children are receiving equitable and challenging learning experiences. So this is a very high-level overview of the Elliott results when the report is submitted to the system, which we hope will be in about 30 days. This data will be fleshed out in great detail. You can see from looking at this chart that Durham falls somewhat below the AdvanceED network average. In some cases, you're only below it slightly. There are some areas which the superintendent and his staff and I've already kind of talked about some that represent clear leverage for improvement moving forward. So let's talk about the opportunities for improvement. Now, these opportunities for improvement are to be considered as like a professional suggestion that the team wants to make to the school system some things that you might want to consider. These will not be well supported with data and analysis and so forth, but these are some areas that did not rise to the level of an improvement priority, but we felt compelled to mention them to you. And the first of those is regarding the use of instructional time. I'm a little older than most people here, and folks in my generation talked about fiercely protecting instructional time. It's a battle that has to be fought. It's like the weeds in your yard. You know, it's never over with. And so we want you to relook at that and think about what you might do in order to get us back to a point where everybody is fiercely protecting instructional time. The second one is strategic resource management, and in particular, the existence of a long-range resource planning document. I know that income is a problem. It's an unknown, but planning concerning your expenses is something that we feel like it would be prudent for the system to have something in place of a guide. So these are the improvement priorities, and it would be these four, and there are only four, that the system is responsible for addressing. And the first one is 3.6, indicator 3.6, which is to further define and implement an instructional process. In AdvanceED world, an instructional process consists of 3 or 4 elements, the most important of which is the clear and consistent communication of learning expectations to students. So that would mean an objective being posted on the board, the teacher clearly detailing, you know, what we're learning today and why it's important. The second component is the use of formative classroom assessment practices that monitor student learning and inform the teacher about what do I need to do differently within this class period to try to help ensure that students are meeting the standards. So that might be like asking a probing question or using an exit slip. And we talked about this briefly with some of the senior leadership here. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I think some foundational work has already been done on instructional process. We are encouraging that work be continued and that we work towards making it systematic across the school system, that it becomes something that we see in every school and every classroom, because it's a very, very much researched, aligned practice. So I want to make sure you understand that we are respectful of the work that's been done to this point. The second one has to do with 3.4, and that's about the consistent monitoring and supportive improvement in instruction. This isn't to say there's not monitoring going on and that there's not support being provided. Again, it's about the systemic provision of that across the school. And we're asking that procedures be developed that that will allow it to be something that's systematic and consistent in monitoring and improving instructional practices focused on improving student performance and success. And that would include 3 elements. And the first of those is, as I've been saying, equitable and challenging curriculum for all children. We believe the curriculum exists, that it may be in very good shape, but the extent to which every kid has access to that curriculum is of a concern to us. The second one is the authentic engagement of students, and that authentic engagement would go to differentiation of instruction based on the student's needs, interests, and so forth. We think the capacity to do that is here with support and with help. And the third one is the implementation of the instructional process. So the first improvement priority was to clearly define and systematically implement the instructional process, and this one is about diving a little bit deeper into ensuring the curriculum is delivered and ensuring that instruction is highly engaging. And then the last one, or no, this is the next to last one, the 3.9 is a little bit off the subject of academics. You know, it's more about students and relationships. And this is asking that the system further refine. We know that some structures are already in place in some schools, or to develop new structures that ensure every student is well known by at least one school employee who supports that student's educational experience. AdvanceED is very committed to the idea that in order for all children to receive equitable and challenging learning experiences, all children need to be well known by one adult in the school, and that needs to be a school employee. When we have seen this put into place, we have seen benefits that are widespread in terms of student engagement and student performance, but also in terms of climate and the culture in the school. I want to mention that this one is not just about the kids having someone that they can trust in the school. It's also about the adults in the school knowing the minds of the students and being informed by what the kids are thinking as they develop and change educational programs, maybe their classroom, maybe course offerings, and so forth. There's clear evidence that we need to know our kids better and what they're thinking. And then the last one, the fourth one, is asking that we be very systematic in collecting, analyzing, and acting on data. You've got a lot of data in Durham Public Schools. We're not asking that you test more or that you gather more data. We think the data for the most part is here, particularly in the elementary schools, that data in all schools be something that at intervals is communicated, is explained, is discussed, that information is then used to modify classroom instruction or adapt school improvement planning strategies that ensures, again, excellence and equity for all children. You've got an improvement planning process that was apparent here in the system and at all the schools. We're interested in seeing that process strengthened. We're interested in seeing that process be one that is more effective in delivering consistent results. And we think that one of the ways that can happen is for the collection, analysis, and then the actual acting upon that data to be something that you do systematically. So this is the what we call the Index of Educational Quality Results. And this information will be fleshed out in more detail, as I said in the report. The system falls somewhat below the AdvanceED network averages. The system, I think, can be proud of the results that they have here. I think that's probably apparent by the results. We ask that the improvement priorities be addressed within 2 years. We want to encourage that you continue on your journey of improvement. We know from talking to Dr. Wilson Norman earlier today that there are a lot of bright spots in performance data in Durham, and we want to do everything we can do to support that and encourage that. But we also want to ensure that every child every day is being prepared for achieving success, whether that's college or career in the future. So I need to take plenty of time here, if you'll bear with me, to thank Jill Hall and her force of many people, I think, must have been a lot of people, for everything that Jill has done to make us feel hospitable, to support our efforts beginning back in January when Jill and I started having pretty regular phone calls and emails. The team doesn't know about all the work that Jill has done to pull this together. The surveys, the self-assessment, the internal review, as well as all of the nuts and bolts and deep bolts that she's taken care of this week with hotels and logistics and meals and schedules and on and on and on. So Jill, we very much appreciate you. Already said we want to make sure you know that we respect and acknowledge your efforts to improve your institution. That's very apparent to us, having been here for almost 4 days. And we want to congratulate you and your community on being an AdvanceED accredited system. This concludes the 10,000-foot overview of the accreditation report.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We are pleased, very pleased with the report and with your work. Thanks for presenting that overview. Look forward to seeing the report in much more detail. And we very much look forward to working to continue to build on our strengths and to address the areas that have been pointed out in the report. And so to each of you, thank you so much for your time here in Durham. And to our administrative team, thank you so much for hours and hours of work to present the school system and the work that we do.
I wanted to say thank you again. Steve and I were the ones who interviewed with members of the team, and we were very excited that we had the opportunity to interview with you. Thank you for recognizing Durham Public Schools as an AdvanceED accredited school. We know that it was laborious work. It took a lot on your end to come into our city and interview all of these people and take these copious notes. Please know that we have also, as the board, taken copious notes on the things that are our strengths and certainly also recognizing those things that need to be strengthened. And so we pay close attention to that, and that is our work going forward. Thank you for paying attention to those things that help us make a better educational environment for all of our children. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Fort Brown and Mr. Unruh. But before I begin my comments, I think you probably missed on the slide where they had the list of all the people that you interviewed. And there were 7 members of the board, and they all interviewed with the team. I think that's very important because they saw it as an important opportunity to be able to sit with the external review team, and we appreciate them taking the time to do that. But ongoing, I'm looking out at the principals, and I look beyond you, and I see all of the 3,500 teachers that are in Durham Public Schools that are doing this work every single day. And that they're doing, not only are they doing a good job, they can only do a good job if there's a great principal at the helm of every school. So looking at those principals, I see your teachers, I see all the support staff, and I don't know if this is the word that you want me to say next, but I'm so very proud of you all for the work that you've done. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Senior leadership, I only knew a couple of weeks ago the extent and the amount of time that is spent on the preparation for the AdvanceED visit. What I appreciated the most is how seriously they took this effort. And taking it seriously means that the team, AdvanceED team, received very good information from us. And I think that what you have said to us is that we weren't there just to spin it the right way. We were there to give the good information, what it is, on the ground in each and every one of our schools. So I want to thank the senior leadership team, and I also want to thank Jill. This was as complicated as working with educators. I know that it's not always the easiest thing to do to get all those arrows pointed in the right direction, and you did do that, and so thank you, Jill. Then I would like to say that this is, for those who are old enough, remember that there used to be something called the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval. Well, I feel today we got the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval, is that we're doing good work in Durham Public Schools, and we're doing good work for all of our students who come here every single day. I mean, we're talking about 33,000 students in 53 schools with 3,500 teachers and 4,500 staff. That's a huge undertaking, and to be able to do that and to make sure that we don't miss any one child is a huge undertaking. And that's what I think is Durham Public Schools does such a good job at. We also know, and listening from you all, I wanted to write down there, and that we discussed earlier, none of this was a surprise. is that we know our strengths and we know where we need to improve. And to have the Advanced Ed team come in and see the same things that we see gave it validation. So you, Mr. Jones, kept saying that this is a lever. This is a lever for continuous improvement, and that's the way we see it, Mr. Jones, and that's the way I want to be able to say to all of my colleagues in Durham Public Schools, it's a lever. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so incredibly proud of Durham Public Schools this afternoon, and it just warms my heart to think that this is this good housekeeping seal of approval. I think it should go right there, don't you think, Manny? Yeah, right there. So thank you very much, and thank you, the team, and have safe travels on your way home.
And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
You started the meeting.
I did.
Good.
Otherwise, we.